Well, our briefing this week, we've got Mr. Graham Cregeen and also the Chief Minister. And interestingly, you got freedom of information on your list, which I got to last week. So did I get there first? I don't know. But it's happening.
Yes. We have spent a lot of time, as you know, working on this legislation. It was one of the commitments I made when I became Chief Minister 2.5 years ago. It has taken longer than I'd anticipated to get to where we are, but it's really important that we get this legislation right. We have reviewed the legislation in the United Kingdom, in Scotland and in Jersey to assess the effectiveness there. And I think we've come back now with a bill which balances the needs to provide the public with the information it wants with the ability of government to actually to pay for it.
And we touched on Jersey last week, and I read this week that they're taking on 5 more civil servants in just one department. Part of that was to cover their freedom of information. Yeah. So you must be really keeping an eye on that, because the last thing you need is a lot more civil servants, right?
We can't afford to take on a whole range of new civil servants just because of this. What we need to remember, and people have forgotten in this debate, we also already have a very effective code of practice, which we've had in place actually for 17 years. Now, in those 17 years, we have had 11 complaints only over the whole of that period about an inability to get access to information. Out of those 11, only 4 of those objections were upheld. So the code has worked in spite of some of the comments. It's worked very, very effectively. So it's not as if we haven't had an effective system in place for quite some time. It, to me, is unacceptable in the present economic climate to take on a load more civil servants purely and simply to service this requirement.
Just explain though, that the code you got now, was that just for the journalists, or could members of the public actually try and find out? I mean, obviously this new one will be for anyone, won't it?
Yes, as is the code.
Right.
It applies to anyone who makes a genuine inquiry for information. It's been available for the public, for journalists, for whoever.
I mean, I'm not trying to do your job here, but why then do you need to alter it? Do you think there's just that perception out there that you are still running things a bit too secretively?
The conspiracy theorists flourish on the Isle of Man, and we only need to look at some of the websites to see some of the nonsense which is spoken about it. We do have an effective structure for access to information. What we're doing with this, though, is broadening it slightly, but also putting it on a legal footing, which the code of practice wasn't. It was just a code of practice. So this gives a legal base for the applications to take place.
Whatever happens, it will cost money.
Yes.
And you've got that money?
We were worried at the outset about the overall cost, and I think I've mentioned to you in the past that Jersey estimated something like £4 million to set this up. Now, there's no way in the present environment can the Isle of Man afford £4 million to set up something like this. We have pared back the costs wherever possible. We still don't know what the final cost is likely to be, but it's certainly going to be below £500,000. That's a huge amount of money, because it's £500,000 which could have been spent elsewhere, but it's a lot cheaper than might otherwise be the case.
But if people can do it now, I mean, under this code, why would it need more people to do it under this Act?
Well, this is what we're trying to avoid. Jersey would appear to have taken a more robust approach to setting up the scheme. They've employed, I think they've even employed a number of lawyers to monitor this and provide the service. We cannot afford to do that.
Do you have dedicated civil servants right now then doing freedom of information requests?
No.
So it's just taken on as an extra workload as and when?
Yes, it's just as and when the information requests come in.
But when it comes in now, there will be a flurry, presumably. That's what you're thinking, is it?
Well, there may be, but there will also be restrictions in the legislation against vexatious and frivolous claims. So for those who really are just playing, we have mechanisms to stop that, because it could clog up the whole system altogether with pointless claims for information at this time.
So people's salaries, which come up quite often, even in the House of Keys or Tynwald, even there, it seems that it's quite often stonewalled. There'll be no way that we can find out who's being paid what.
Perhaps specific individuals' salary has not been made public, but there are many occasions when it has. But usually it's the banding which is quoted, I think, rather than the specific amount itself. But that information will be available for the future, I think.
And finally, just to put you on the spot, when will this be law in force?
Well, the consultation process starts on the 10th of February. There's 6 weeks put aside at this stage for that consultation. We'll have to see whether that's enough or not. If all goes well and we get a good response and we're able to take the bill forward, I am hopeful we will get the first reading of the bill at least before the summer recess. So it will be in the Keys by June, and I would hope, given a fair wind, it would be in law first quarter next year.